Well, the Bulls are a game and a half out of the 8th spot. The Cavs are tied for atop the East. So why does it feel like Jimmy Butler and company have the upper hand? Well, because they have in the last 4 meetings with Cleveland. But it's a big UC matchup on the way on this Thursday night. And with that, we want to welcome you to Game Time and the NBA Finish Line, where every game counts as we move closer to April. Cavs and Bulls, top of the hour on TNT. Then it's the Rockets and the Blazers. I'm Vince Giannini, pleased to be alongside Ron Thompson, and Brent Barry will join us momentarily. But Ron, can it be, is it possible I can use the word vulnerable when talking about the champs?
Look, when you're thinking about LeBron James, you very seldom pick that word. That word very seldomly comes into mind. But when you look at how they're playing, how poorly they're playing on the defensive end, and we don't see them starting to trend upward, you got to be a little nervous.
Well, you just have to go back to their previous game. When last we saw the Cavs, it was Monday, and it was a drubbing at San Antonio. And if you looked at this game, everything pegged as a Cavs weakness was exposed, particularly the defense. A 103-74 smash job. Afterward, it was Kyrie sticking around for some extra shooting, and then he had a locker room heart-to-heart with LeBron James. So as it stands, the Cavs and Boston in a virtual tie. They do play Wednesday in Boston. Washington recently won in Cleveland. They feel good about themselves. Toronto took the Cavs to 6 last spring. They're waiting for Lowry to return. But let's go back to Kyrie Irving, who the day after the Spurs lost said it's up to the Cavs individually to get back to championship mode.
It just wasn't about the shots. It's just more or less about the the game and what I could have done to impact it, and I didn't do it, and I had to face it. I had to face the music, and I think we all had to, but more importantly me, I just had to look myself in the mirror and just, I wasn't doing enough, and I haven't been doing it at a high level, and I got to demand more on myself. We can't rely on just thinking that one championship is enough. I think that it's natural for human beings just to get comfortable, just to have an excuse just to rely on just having one championship, but if you want 2, you want 3, you want 4, and if you dedicate yourself like you say you do, then you want more, and I want more, and I'm going to go take it. So, my job as one of the leaders of the team is to bring my guys with me.
Well, if you're a Cavs fan, you have to love the message there by
no doubt
Kyrie Irving. So let's bring Brent Barry into the conversation. He's part of the broadcast crew in Chicago for tonight's game. And Brent, you've been a part of championship teams as well. So I'll just turn it over to you. What do you think is at the center of this Cavs malaise right now?
Yeah, interesting question. Vince, I like the way you framed it, that Monday, the last time we saw the Cavs was against the Spurs. Are you sure that they were at that game?
They were present, I believe.
I'm not sure. It's been interesting, Vince, when you're in this kind of situation, having played for teams that have potential to do great things, and you get into a bit of a rut, the one thing you cannot do is start to wait around for one guy to inspire you to play harder. You can't wait for the next guy. You have to be the guy to go out there and take that approach. And I think that that's where we are for tonight's game against the Chicago Bull team. Of course, there's tons of mention of the hashtag TNT Bulls, where they've won 19 straight games on TNT, an amazing number. And some of those wins have been really crazy. But tonight, the approach for Cleveland after the drubbing with San Antonio, the body language of this team to come out in the first quarter, the connectivity, the communication. Hey, if they're a little upset, even better. But their approach to this game tonight, I think, is going to be fascinating to watch.
Yes.
Bones, one of the things that I loved was when Kyrie said, to your point, he wasn't putting it in a situation where collectively he wasn't pointing the finger. He said if it's going to start, he looked at himself. So if you can start to point at your, and Lord knows he's not the only one that's struggling on the defensive end on this ball club. And we're going to show later on in the show some breakdowns from multiple guys. But he said, look, I'm not going to point fingers. I have to do better. And if someone like Kyrie takes that kind of stand, other guys will start to fall in line.
Yeah, if the team has fallen into this, Ron, it's not just that one guy has not done his job on one end of the floor. They all have to step up their attentiveness to what it is they do defensively. And it's been interesting watching the Cavs. The fresh memories for us is that switching defense, that incredibly active big men out on pick and rolls, and being able to have multiple efforts to shut down opposing offenses. That is not something we've seen with this team. They don't get the loose balls. They don't have deflections. They're not good on the defensive rebounding right now. Teams are killing them on the offensive glass. and they want to play with pace, but they're right in the middle of the league. They play 15th at pace, and they're not getting out and getting easy baskets. So you start to add all those things together, and you start looking around at a March schedule where you play 17 games in the month, and you're trying to get guys back from injury. They've been all over the place, but really they've not been inside each other's face with regards to what they need to do defensively. That's why tonight is a great game to watch what it is that Cleveland does in terms of the body language approach. And again, back to that communication and determination to not just have it last for 12 minutes like they did against San Antonio, but for a full game. And we'll see if they can do that.
Yeah, Bones, a possible first-round opponent for the Cavs. And LeBron has made it to the finals with or without that top seed in the conference. But in this case, in the way that the Cavs are playing, how important is it, do you believe, that the Cavs do finish number one?
Well, they can say as much as they want about it not being very important, but absolutely the number one seed is critical for them. I think there's something in terms of the psyche maybe of the rest of the team losing that number one seed, having been that. They have not played a calendar, or they've not played a game in the 2 seed, Vince, in 2 calendar years. And thankfully, because of Malcolm in the middle, Brogdon's great effort for the Bucks against the Celtics now, they've had it split. But the tiebreaker is still with Boston. There's 1 game remaining with Boston. But for the collective psyche of the team, I think the number one seed is something they need to get back to, gravitate back to, and start to find some rhythm in the next 4 or 5 games. They play tomorrow night in Philly after this one, and another back-to-back next week. And so we'll see if they're able to muster it tonight on the defensive end of the floor.
All right, Brent, we're going to switch over to the Bulls now. And Ronnie, we're going to take a look at the Eastern Conference standings 5 through 10 and show you where they sit right now. Right now, they're on the outside looking in by a game and a half. And there's a couple of different ways I can go with this, including Jimmy Butler's play without Dwayne Wade. But with you, Bones, because you're sort of an abstract thinker, I'm going to go with Rajon Rondo. And the fact that he and Hoiberg they're kind of tied together like the Defiant Ones, that old movie. They don't really maybe get along, but they both have the same objective. And Rondo seems to rise to the occasion in games like this against good teams, and particularly against an all-star point guard. So I wonder what you think about that matchup.
Yeah, interesting how Rondo kind of creates drama and then plays well within the havoc of the drama that sometimes he creates. And they've gone back to him in the starting lineup, and we had a chance to talk with Fred about 15 minutes ago about what he has meant in terms of his professionalism this year, but to be called upon and what he's done for the spacing of this team. It's as if they finally found a unit around Rondo with Jimmy Butler drawing tons of attention. They've surrounded him with shooters, Mirotic out there for tons of minutes, no Dwayne Wade out there playing in isolation. And instead of having 2 very different units, which is what Fred had to deal with until the Wade injury, where one was Jimmy Butler with point guard and Michael Carter-Williams, where they were trying, and Grant for some time, where they were trying to just get off to a good start, and then more of an offensive unit coming in and a 3-point shooting unit with Valentine and Mirotic. Now they've settled into Rondo creating space with Jimmy Butler, shooters around them who are starting to shoot the ball well. Mirotic has been on fire since the All-Star break. Valentine has had some good games for them. Bobby Portis has made contributions. Lopez is rolling to the rim and drawing some defenders. They've had some success as of late, winners 4 of 5. And again, tonight at home against Cleveland, they're 3-0 against the Cavs.
Bones, to use your word, this is a fascinating contest, not just because it's on TNT, but where these teams stand right now. Brent, have a great call. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
All right, thanks for the time and the information. All right, but back to the Cavalier defense, and this has really, Ronnie, been sort of the national focus in terms of cable TV and radio sports talk, and stumbling through a 6-9 month. And you touched on it a little bit here. This has to be the backbone of a championship.
Without a doubt, the Cavaliers have always been in a situation where they've been able to turn it up. But they're in a funk right now, coming down towards the latter part of the season before the playoffs, where you want to start to trend upward. You want to start to trend and lock in and be ready to roll. And if you look at these numbers, they don't dictate championship success. And we're going to go into a little bit and see some of the things that later on that they potentially have done. But when you look at it, the Wizards, they allowed the Wizards to shoot 60% from the floor. San Antonio Spurs shot almost 50% from the floor. That can't happen. Accustomed to the fact of all the hustle plays where they're at the bottom of the league. So they've got to turn the defensive end around. But I really love what Kyrie said. He didn't start to point fingers. He looked at himself and let you know there's hope.